All right, I'm going to try this again. This is Ben. I'm going to try to give you a video and explanation of what I think happened at the crash. I've had a couple of friends and family ask me what I think went on, so here we go. The aircraft was from Bravo Company 12th Aviation Battalion, which is actually my old unit. I used to fly with that unit, and that was my company. Back then we had UH-72s instead of Blackhawks, but the LUHs were all reassigned to primarily Fort Rucker for primary training aircraft. So I guess they have all Blackhawks now. It's not uncommon for them to do training missions in and around the DC area. I got a lot of really good flying experience in this area. Did a lot of actual instrument flying. It's good experience for military pilots because generally you don't get a whole lot of experience flying in civilian airspace. You're generally flying military missions. So the aircraft took off from Fort Belvoir. Probably had done some continuation training, normal training stuff that they always do. I don't know if they were coming back to base, but they were just coming down the helo route into DC, and we'll get into that in a second. The CRJ aircraft was going to be landing or coming in on approach to runway 1. I don't know what approach they're using, but I did pull up an approach plate here for the RNAV approach into runway 1. So again, the aircraft is going to hit these checkpoints, starting at irons, the initial approach fix. Then they're going to turn left here at the initial fix, MRION, yep, and then turning northbound. They're going to hit the final approach fix at BADDN. Once they hit the final approach fix, again, it's been a minute, so I'm a little rusty on my aviation procedures. At some point, they're going to be handed over to the control tower, and the control tower is going to give them landing instructions, winds, all that information. Most of the audio that you've probably heard online has been the air traffic control frequency and the air traffic control communications between all the aircraft involved. There is essentially just one frequency that are operating on. It's a VHF frequency. 119.1 is most likely what it was. There's also a UHF frequency, 257.6, but generally VHF in the clear, 119.1. And this air traffic controller is going to be monitoring and giving instructions to all the aircraft that are going to be landing or departing from the runway. So aircraft is inbound from the south. One of the things, if you've heard the audio, they've said you are cleared visual approach to runway 33, maintain visual separation. So as this aircraft is coming inbound from the final approach fix, at some point when they get that instruction from the tower, instead of landing at runway 1, so here's runway 1, oriented generally north-south, they're going to be landing from south to north here. Instead of landing on this runway, they're given instructions to land a visual approach runway 33. This is runway 33. If you're going 33, you're actually landing from southeast to northwest. So that would have made the CRJ have an approach path that would have taken a right turn somewhere at or before the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, and then a left turn to get lined up on final for runway 33. So that puts them coming inbound this way. This is a very common procedure. This is not something out of the ordinary. It wasn't something crazy. It sounds like there was potentially a delay with another aircraft that was getting ready to take off runway 1, so the runway either wasn't going to be cleared in time or there was some kind of traffic conflict with an aircraft that was on the ground. Either way, not uncommon for an aircraft to be given alternate landing instructions to land at a different runway other than what the approach plate said that they were going to be landing on. So visual approach runway 33 is not uncommon. Don't think it's anything out of the ordinary. So as this aircraft is approaching from southeast to northwest to land on runway 33, you have PAT 25, which is the Blackhawk aircraft, traveling southbound on the helo route. The helo route follows the river, and at roughly around Georgetown, the altitude restriction is 200 feet or below, and you're supposed to follow that 200 feet or below, stay to the east side of the river, all the way down until you get across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. Once you cross the Woodrow Wilson Bridge in the National Harbor, you'll start to climb back up to go on to wherever else you may be heading. As they were coming southbound here, they're starting to make a right turn, and I don't know exactly the timing of events, but they're giving instructions to look out for this CRJ aircraft on final to runway 33. This, you may think that, how hard could it be? I've seen comments online, people said, how can you not see an aircraft coming inbound? And I'll hopefully try to explain this in a way that makes a lot of sense. There are a lot of lights in this area, and one of the worst parts is right down here at the National Harbor. There's this big Ferris wheel that's down there. There's a hotel. There's all kinds of stuff, lights everywhere in this area. So as you're flying southbound, looking for aircraft that are over here, there is just a lot of light pollution that's going to affect your ability to see, and that's just night unaided when you're able to see different colorations between lights. So aircraft will have uh, red lights and green lights on their wingtips, and these lights help you to know whether or not an aircraft is coming towards you. So if you see red on right, so a red light on the right side of the aircraft as it's approaching towards you, you know that aircraft is coming at you. So if you're looking straight ahead and you see a red light on the right and a green light on the left, that aircraft is flying towards you. If you see a red light on the left and a green light on the right, that aircraft's flying away from you. So you're always kind of looking for these colored lights to try to help you differentiate which way the aircraft is going. Now, most everybody in this situation would have understood that this Black Hawk knows the aircraft are coming inbound, so they're all going to be coming in their general direction, and they were generally probably scanning this area to look for this inbound aircraft. However, the amount of light pollution that's in this area could make that challenging for them to see. Another thing that really makes it even more challenging is probably more of a factor into why this crash happened was the fact that they were doing night vision goggle training. I am trying to rack my brain around how we did this because we would do night vision goggle training in and around the city, but you do have this problem of light pollution that will wash out and white out your goggles. Not to the point that you can't see anything, but that being able to differentiate different lights and being able to tell what things are becomes extremely difficult. Night vision goggles are an incredible tool when flying at night, but they do also have limitations. So a night where there's a lot of either ambient light from the moon and the stars or just from ambient light from ground lights, it can actually make it more difficult to fly with night vision goggles than without them. So um, the other thing is you're doing a bunch of stuff at one time. So even if you're flying under night vision goggles, your goggles are far enough away from your face that you can glance down and see your instrument panel, controls, inside the cockpit, all this other stuff. You can lift your head up and look underneath your goggles out across the windscreen to try to gain some reference to what you're looking at as well. And so going back and forth between being under goggles, not being under goggles, looking inside, looking for aircraft, all these things, it really task saturates you a lot at key periods and critical timing. It sounds like the aircraft crash happened above 200 feet. I don't. That's maybe speculation. I don't know, but it's not. It's not impossible to believe that looking for this aircraft, dealing with all of these ambient lights, a lot of air traffic control going on, the pilots could have unintentionally climbed above that 200-foot altitude restriction just to try to as they were doing a bunch of other things. Again, being able to see visual references at night to understand how high you are above the ground without looking at your instruments is challenging at night. In the daytime, a little bit easier, but it's still, you're not going to be able to tell to the nearest 10 or 20 feet how high above the ground you are, even flying at such a low level. So it's not really impossible to believe that they could have accidentally or just unintentionally climbed into the approach path of that incoming aircraft. I also saw it look like a track where the aircraft turned right and looks like it turned right into the CRJ. And I think some people are speculating that why did they do that? How can they not see that aircraft? Why would they intentionally turn into it? And the point is they didn't see the aircraft. That's the problem. They didn't see it. Whatever they thought they saw made them want to do that right turn. I don't think they realized what was going on even up until the point of the crash, and maybe like literally split seconds before the crash. Were they even able to realize what was happening? There was other aircraft that were also coming inbound from the south. There was another aircraft that had also been cleared for that visual approach to runway 33. So there could have been the CRJ in this area and then another aircraft back over here. It could have been easy for them to mistake the landing aircraft for this one, or think this was the landing aircraft and the traffic they had to avoid, and completely miss this one as it's flying over top of 295 here, getting ready to land. So all these things together, just the amount of light pollution in National Harbor, flying under NVGs, the amount of traffic that's going on, inadvertently climbing above the 200-foot altitude restriction, I think were all just contributing factors that led to this crash. There's nothing really that leads me to think it was anything other than just an accident, an unfortunate, sad accident for sure, but I really don't think there was anything that you need to speculate about or worry about to think that, oh, there was some kind of foul play or something crazy is going on here. I know we've been through a lot in the last 4 to 5 years. However, this seems like just an unfortunate chain of events, and I don't know, hard to say what's going to come out of it, but yeah, it sucks all the way around.